Okay, so welcome everybody. Just as a bit of an introduction, I'm Andrea Ronnebeck, the Education Manager for the Ontario Curling Council. A couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, Jen Ferris had an idea for a Beyond the Books type webinar. So something that isn't covered in our coaching courses about some of the situations and the dynamics that we face as coaches when working with our teams. One of the topics that came up was the support team. So who are we dealing with? We've got parents, friends, family, and what are some things that we can use, that we can do to sort of make that whole relationship work, because it is a significant relationship. We often go into coaching thinking that our relationship is with the athletes that we're coaching, it's with the other teams, other coaches, but we have to accept, acknowledge, and embrace the fact that these athletes are often supported by family, friends, and parents, guardians in the whole process. So this webinar is from the perspective that we need to make this work. Obviously, we need to make this work. We need to make all of our relationships work. So we'll start this. I guess I should, well, before we do that, sorry. You can't see it right now. Let's share the screen. All right, so can you see, can give me a nod or a thumbs up, or you can see the perfect. All right. So being part of the support team, I developed this, but I had some help in developing it. The module was developed with information and advice generously provided by Jennifer Ferris, Darren McEwen. Darren, you may or may not know, was associated with Rachel Holman for many years. Darren was their social media manager, and he's a very good friend of the team as well. So Darren did, when the team was on the road, they didn't have to do anything with social media unless they wanted to. Darren did it all. Sean Turriff is our high performance director with the Ontario Curling Council, and Sean provided me with some insight around his experiences. And then Anita Tardy was a strong contributor to this as well. Anita is the mother of, oh, brain fart, played third for Cooey recently. Tyler Tardy, thank you very much. Yes. So Anita has a great deal of experience. She and I, they sometimes summer near us here in Kenora. So I was able to meet with Anita a few times and then talk to her extensively over the phone for some of this information. So, and then support was provided by the Ontario Curling Council. So the support team can be parents, guardians, friends, and family of the competing athletes. So we have to embrace and consider them a part of the team as well. They're an important part of the competitive experience. They can be a help, but there are times, unfortunately, in my experience, they are rarely a hindrance, but that needs to be considered. They can help the athletes in having positive and successful outcomes. So the outcomes of this module are to provide some tools and guidelines on how to best support the team and the coach, and to help coaches develop relationships with their athletes and with the people who support the team from the sidelines. In my experience in the many teams that I've supported throughout the years, the relationships with the people on the sidelines has been good. Where there have been issues, they've been fairly minor and fairly easy to deal with. In a less competitive situation, or with athletes who are maybe developing competitive teams, I have found that there are occasions where parents, families, friends are very invested in their athletes, and they bring with them passion and emotion. So hopefully tonight, after this session, this module, that you'll leave with an understanding of where they're coming from. So I'm hoping that you'll understand the roles and responsibilities that are most helpful to their competing athletes and coaches. We're going to review the roles of the coach, the roles of the athlete, and the roles of the potential roles of the support team. Understand the importance and requirements of preparation for competition. We need everybody supporting the athletes in this journey. Understand the responsibilities during competition, what role parents and supporters can play, and understand the importance of communication and developing a communication plan. So I have some resources that I am going to share with, well, I will send you this presentation and you will have the links to these different ones. So the Spirit of Curling, let's see if we can open that one. So the Spirit of Curling is from the World Curling Federation, and it's right here. It's what the game is all about. So it's just a reinforcement of what we all know and accept. The principles of fair play and helping the athletes succeed in the True Sport Parent Handbook. This is an excellent resource because it takes, like this module, it takes the topic from all sides. What you can do as parents and supporters, what you can do as a coach. It's a great resource, and it's free to access. Etiquette in curling, desired behaviors versus rules. So years ago, much of what was etiquette, much of what was etiquette then is now covered by rules. For example, unnecessary movement when the opposition is delivering, standing between the hog lines while the opposition is delivering. All of those that were previously etiquette behaviors are now governed by the rules. But there's still some behaviors that are not covered by the rules because they can't be. So good sportsmanship, remaining silent rather than cheering when the opposition misses, ensuring your team thanks the opposition before celebrating a win, staying positive, especially skips and coaches, even if the team isn't performing as expected, and the coaches and support team remaining supportive. Discipline when necessary is fair and perhaps done in private. So those are some of the things that are desired behaviors but aren't necessarily covered by the rules. Curling Canada has its own safe sport policies. This link is in the presentation as well. So the Universal Code of Conduct to prevent address and maltreatment, Code of Conduct, discipline and complaints. So all of this is covered on the Curling Canada website. The other thing that you as coaches will all need to be aware of, and as club members you're probably already aware of it, is the safe sport policy and training. So as coaches, before going to a competition, it's an annual requirement that you retake and acknowledge the safe sport training, which includes the rule of two and concussion awareness, Rowan's Law, etc. Now I have a video that it's just a short one that I'd like to have you view as well. This is called The Ride Home. So let me know how this goes for you. If you can hear it, if it's too jumpy, then we won't go through it, but just let me know. I'll skip this as soon as I can. Can you see this?
So, not your best practice. Do we agree on that? It seemed like you wanted to hang out with your friends more than practice. And that's fine. If that's what you want to do. Just tell me. Because you can do that anytime. Maybe we can skip your next game. Because choosing to waste your time, that's one thing. But wasting my time and your coach's time, that's selfish. You don't care about other people. You don't care about hard work. You don't care about teamwork. That's why you're always on the bench every time it matters.
Oh, sorry.
So, if you want to keep playing, you need to take a good hard look at yourself. Think about that.
Okay, so I don't know if you could hear all that, but I think you could understand the tone of it. And when you look at the age of the athlete and the tone, the not just the his words and the tone of his voice, but his body language, etc. Oh, sorry, hang on. Let's just get rid of this.
So, not your.
Okay, we'll just shut that down. Okay, got it back. All right. All right, we're back. So I think you could get the idea from it that the father wasn't pleased with the child's performance at practice. He was disappointed, but he was also putting pressure on the child to perform and taking away from the fact that this is a young child and he wants to enjoy as well. So another consideration and something that not all parents or family members, friends are familiar with is the long-term curler development model. This is also available at Curling Canada. So this model is a systematic scientific process for consistently producing the best possible Canadian curling athletes and teams. So this was previously called the long-term athlete development model because every sport has their own model of this, and it's how to address what athletes need at different stages and ages in their development. It identifies optimal training, competition, and recovery principles from childhood to adulthood. It allows coaches to provide athletes with the best support at each stage of their development. So you're not holding an athlete back. You're not pushing an athlete ahead too much. It's very detailed in its approach to age and stage of athletes. It informs both athletes and their parents about key developmental concepts and practices at each stage. So this is just an overview of it. I hope you can see it, but I'll quickly go through it. So the first bottom of the long-term curler development model is first involvement and awareness. So the young boy that you saw in the car on that ride home video, he might be at the bottom age of introduction to the sport. He looked like he was maybe 7, 8 years old, and that would be sort of the bottom age for us in starting curling. The next stage is U9, so it's the fundamentals, having fun. It's an early start, learning what curling is all about, but not getting to the point where the emphasis is on competition. The emphasis is on fun, developing skills along the way. U12 is the learn to train stage, and it's a smart start. So at that point, you're starting to really focus on developing skills, but still keeping the fun and the interest in it. Then there's the U15, train to train, and it goes on up from there. And it separates into recreational, so curl for life at the club or local level, and entry at this stage is at any age or ability. Train to train and learn to compete. So learn to compete is U18, train to train is U21, and those are folks that we may have worked with or that you're aware of that compete for life. And then finally, the later stages are U25 and 25 and over, where those athletes are high performance athletes. They're competing for Canada, and they're in the learn to excel and training to excel stages. So the needs obviously between a U18 and a U25 may be different. They're obviously going to be different between a U9 and a U18. So this is a good thing to be aware of, and the whole model can be downloaded from curling.ca. So how do we get started in competition? When parents are looking to get their child or young person involved in curling, these are some of the ways to have them enter. There can be club-based programs, youth bonspiels. There's a Sticks and Stones project in Ontario. I haven't heard much about it lately, but it's something to consider. Free agent lists. So if your athlete is without a team at the moment, Ontario Curling Council, or maybe not Ontario Curling Council, I believe Curl On and NOCA may be keeping a free agent list. High school curling and post-secondary institutions, there's been a huge resurgence in secondary institutions with now the college competitions and university competitions. They've really begun to take off again. There's the Next Gen program, which is through Ontario Curling Council. Amethyst and Trillium summer camps are awesome, an awesome way for kids to get involved. With those two camps, it's ideal that the child or youth has some curling experience in order to get in there, but they have a great time, they have fun, and oh, by the way, they do develop skills as well, people skills and curling skills. And then there's the OCC Academy Team Project. The other thing that happens in schools quite often is the floor curl program, where athletes go into the school and they work with kids. They have the big curling mats and the rocks on casters, not coasters. And that's a good introduction as well. In Kenora, for example, we have a school elementary school that's very close to our curling club. So after Christmas, they usually bring from grade 3 to grade 6 to the curling club for 2 hours per class of introduction to curling. And we've actually beefed up our junior program or our U18 program a little bit with students that have experienced that. But to get the students from floor curl into the curling club is a great way to grow programs and grow athletes. So we get into the role of the coach. In an ideal world, parents would play a significant role in the selection of a coach for their athletes. And you'd have an established list of qualifications, characteristics, and responsibilities that are desirable in a coach. However, reality is that sometimes there's a coach that steps up to the plate to offer to coach. I just want to say something real quickly. Hi, Al. Hi, Al. Anyway, this might be a parent of one of the players, or it might be someone else in the club with a keen interest. As much as possible, it's best to have a good understanding of the role of the coach and an agreement among all as to what the coach will do, as well as what the support team will do. Formal training for a coach could be Club Coach Youth at a minimum. That's a one-day course for anybody that's not familiar with it. Club coach is also a good base for a coach that is maybe beginning to work with a team and they're kind of an emerging competitive team. They want to become competitive, but competition coach certification is the most desirable. Club Coach Youth is a one-day course. Club Coach is the two-day course, and then competition coach is a two-day course, and with the outcome being that there is a certification process. Club Coach Youth and Club Coach are Club Coach Youth and Club Coach are trained as far as the locker is concerned. Characteristics that you'd like in a coach: you want them to be a motivator, enthusiastic, positive, supportive, empathetic, respectful, fair, and ethical. A coach can play a significant role in selection of curlers. That's sometimes a luxury in some of our clubs. Setting goals, season planning practices, skill analysis and development, fitness and nutrition, team communication and dynamics, and mental toughness. The competition coach level coach will have been trained in all of these roles. Most levels of competition require a coach to be competition coach certified at a minimum. U12 may be an exception depending on the province or territory. U15 and U18 may require competition coaches to be trained only. They may not require certification. One benefit of competition coach certification is that coaches will have been evaluated for making ethical decisions. This tests a coach's decision-making ability in situations that may involve legal and/or ethical considerations. So really, competition coach is the most desired, and often when it's a Canada Winter Games year or it's an Ontario Winter Games year, we have a flurry of coaches that are competition coach trained but haven't taken the next step to become certified. So any coaches out there or parents that are considering becoming coaches, I strongly recommend taking the competition coach training and going down that pathway. Some of the additional coach skills that are desirable have a knowledge and ability to correctly teach delivery and brushing skills, strong analytical and intervention skills. So being able to go into a competition, there's a timeout, you go out and you have the strategy knowledge available to help the team. However, the intervention skills can extend to off the ice as well. If there's a situation on the team that's developing and it's causing a distraction, you want your coach to be able to intervene appropriately and resolve the situation. Strong grasp of strategy and game plans, and the ability to lead a team before, during, and after competition. The athletes have their own roles and responsibilities, and these are listed here so that parents and the support team know what is expected of the curling athlete, and you can include this in your planning, in your support of the athlete, and in a communication plan that's developed. So curling athletes need to have a commitment to their role on the team, lead, second, third, skip, being positive in their approach to the team and the game, commitment to working hard in practice and competition, provide honest, open input, communicating respectfully at all times, commitment to performance measurements and activities, problem solving and conflict resolution, and being present and mindful in practices, training, and competitions. So this is where the parent support team can have a significant influence. Reviewing these characteristics with athletes will help the team and coach accomplish their goals. The one theme that comes up over and over in this presentation is communication. It can't be emphasized enough that not only does everyone have to be on the same page, everyone has to be able to communicate effectively to problem solve, resolve conflicts, and be honest about their ability to commit to the role of the athlete. So parents, friends, family, the support team should be supporting their athlete unconditionally, helping the coach when asked, leave coaching to the coach, focus efforts on cheering for the things all parents do well, and doesn't look for things to criticize. Let the experience be the athlete's and stay in control of emotions. So this doesn't mean that when a parent sees something that maybe isn't going well on a team, that they stand back and just let things unfold. There are going to be times when an athlete needs an advocate, needs a supporter, but learning how to do that in a way that will move the team forward, move the athlete forward, as opposed to putting up barriers. Occasionally, parents in the support team may feel invested in their athletes' efforts and perhaps live vicariously through the player's experience. This may be detrimental if pressure is added and the emphasis is on winning rather than on the journey and the experience. Are there any questions or comments or anything so far? Are we all doing okay? Everybody's still awake? I can't see everybody, so I'm hoping you're all still awake.
Andrea,
Yes.
you had a list of all the things that the kids can get involved in, and one of the things they can do is interclubs.
Good point, Bertha. Yes, that's another thing. So if you're in a community that has more than one curling club, I'm in Kenora, and we have 2 curling clubs, and the other curling club has no junior program, U18 program. But that's a very good point. Yes, getting involved. And the beauty of being in a community as well, where there is more than one club, is there are more options for young athletes to become involved. So here's some of the things that the support team does not do. There shouldn't be an overemphasis on winning championships or a career in sports. Like, it's kind of like hockey. Not everybody that plays hockey is going to be in the NHL, and in curling, not everybody can be a part of a Brad Gushue team or a Rachel Holman team. The support team also shouldn't rush the athlete through the early fun stages into more serious training before the athlete is ready. The fun stages are so important because it builds engagement, it builds ownership and commitment. As we saw in the ride home, that's not a time to do an in-depth game analysis. Leave the analysis as much as possible to the coach. You can talk about, perhaps you can talk about your athletes' behaviors on the ice, what you've observed. But if there's anything that is becoming controversial or a conflict, perhaps the best way to do it is to speak to the coach first, so that the coach is aware of everything of your concerns and everything that's going on in the team. Do not undermine or override the coach's decisions don't do it at all, but always communicate with the coach about their decisions if it's something that you don't agree with. Give the coach a chance to address your concerns before you make it a concern to your athlete. Don't step into practice without being asked. That might be a role that you can fill if you're an experienced curler. It might be something that you can help out with, but talk to the coach first. And definitely don't drink alcohol to excess before or during the athlete's athletic events. I think that kind of goes without saying, but there it is, it's said. So how to best support the team? It can be some assistance with financial matters, because support is needed for equipment, entry fees, uniforms, and travel expenses. Not every athlete on the team is going to come from a situation where, you know, there aren't budget concerns. So helping the team as needed or as asked in attaining finances. So fundraising can include raffles, volunteer work that leads to a donation, bake sales, specialty sales. I don't know how much meat and cheese I've bought in the last year because my neighbors were fundraising for a trip for their children to go on a school trip. But the meat tasted good, the cheese tasted good, so it was all good. There may be grant opportunities, setting up bank accounts, credit cards, expense tracking, paying bills and expenses. These are all things that a coach doesn't necessarily have to be involved with. Leave the coaching to the coach, but these are things that will help the whole team greatly. And development of a financial policy if needed. So who pays the coach's expenses? Who pays the team's expenses? Is it, you know, how is it split? If it's a 5-person team, what's the obligation of the 5th person? Those are all things that need to be considered. Attracting sponsors is huge. So the development of a team package. So I've seen the very best of the glossy production of a book for a team, down to a PDF document that can be shared with potential sponsors. And when you're developing this package, you need to consider who the team is, how the funding is going to be used, and what kind of exposure the sponsor will receive. So exposure could be banners displayed at events. Some of the teams that I worked with at international competitions, their parents would have made a big banner and they would hang it up someplace in the venue, listing all the sponsors. It might have been signed by everybody in the club, but it was prominently displayed at every competition. Of course, display on clothing, whether it's patches or logos, on the jackets, on the sliding knee, on the throwing sleeve, TV or streaming time, what is the sponsor getting in return? The team's accomplishments, brag about the team. If the team is building and developing and hasn't yet reached the goals that they're aspiring to, mention the improvements that they've made. Maybe they had a better win-loss record last season than they did in the season before. So show some progress, show some value for the funding that the sponsor is sharing. What are the team's goals? What are the different levels of financial support? Gold, platinum, silver, bronze, or a contribution. What are the sponsors going to get? How will the sponsor support be acknowledged? It can be on social media. The team could invite sponsors to a competition or event, perhaps organize an event for sponsors such as the Learn to Curl. I don't know if you follow Team Holman, but at the Worlds in Sydney, they met with their sponsors and had lunch with them and then posted photographs from the event, from the lunch, on their social media. So, how many viewers does Team Holman have? Those sponsors all got exposure that way. If there's a possibility of television or streaming coverage, how much airtime is there? Or if there was coverage from the previous season, how many hours was the team on TV, or were their games streamed? Whether that's you setting up a phone at the end of the sheet of ice while you're watching the game and streaming through Facebook Live or whatever kind of live streaming or TV coverage has been, how much time was there? Because when you think about it, the teams are out there with their jackets on. In that kind of coverage, you may not be able to see the patch on the knee or the patch on the elbow or on the throwing arm, but you can see the patches on the jackets and the names on the front and the back of the jackets. So letting sponsors know. Social media. It's the biggest benefit, but it can also be the biggest detriment. It builds connection. It builds a brand, and that's what sponsors are looking for. They're looking for a brand, and it can also promote the team. But the detriments, then you leave yourself open to armchair experts and negative comments. So Darren McEwen, as I mentioned, with Team Holman, he was in charge of managing social media. And with Team Holman, there was always an agreement that they wouldn't look at social media while they were at a competition. They could text friends, they could message, but they weren't to be looking at social media because there could be negative comments. Something innocent that is said on social media can be blown up and turned into something very negative. Appoint someone, if you can, to manage social media. So this could be somebody on the support team that is knowledgeable and perhaps has a background or a knowledge of the ups and downs of social media. Seek training for the support team and the team. There are many articles online about the use of social media, and the support team could benefit from accessing some of this, because that's the other thing. It's not just the team accessing social media. The support team could be posting articles or events or photos or comments, and they too need to be extremely aware of what they're posting. I have a friend whose son is with the OPP, and Steve, I think you can identify with this, but she is a very good friend and she's very kind and very generous, but sometimes she has a tendency to shoot from the lip. And her son has instructed her no more going on social media and making comments about you know, she's defending the OPP, but sometimes it's in a way that is very forthright. So knowing that parents know what they can say and what they can't say on social media is very helpful. So everybody should have training in that, not just the coach, not just the team, but anybody that's going on social media in support of the team needs to know what's going to be helpful and what's going to be detrimental. Other support team functions, equipment and uniforms. When a team comes together and everybody wants to look like a team, they need uniforms. They need at the bare minimum, they may want jackets. So somebody on the support team going out and costing out jackets, costing out equipment, many of the curling suppliers, Goldline, Asham, Hardline, Olson, Atkins Curling Supply in Winnipeg, they're all very strong supporters of curling teams. And so somebody to go and negotiate with these curling suppliers on, you know, maybe a better price than paying retail. Nutrition. So this is something that can happen at competitions, and in the teams that I've coached, this has been an invaluable function of the support team. We've got a short turnaround time between games. We need something to eat, but we have to have our post-game meeting and then a little bit of a break and then our pre-game meeting. We need to eat. So sending somebody out for food, Subway, or perhaps bringing food in. Fifth end break. When I was in Sweden with Team Laws, Cheryl Laws was there every fifth end break. She had the snacks all cut up and ready to go because the team loved fresh fruit. So those kind of considerations, as well as ensuring as much as possible, because these are sometimes just kids, that what they're eating is going to be helpful to their performance. Travel logistics. Do we need a van? Do we need a rental someplace? How are we getting to competitions? How are we getting to practices? If flights or booking travel is required, is there somebody on the team that will take that on so that the coach doesn't have to worry about it? Scouting is another very valuable function. Somebody who obviously has to be knowledgeable about curling, but can go and watch the other team while they're curling while they're competing, instead of watching their own team, and just seeing what tendencies are. Is there a preference to turn? Is there a tendency to slide inside, slide wide? What kind of game are they calling? Are they offense first, defense first, blended attack? So, and providing that information at the appropriate time to the appropriate people. The team doesn't necessarily need to know that, but maybe the coach does. And the coach is the one that should be delivering that information to the team, unless you're invited into the team meeting to deliver the information. Stats. So Curl Book and some of these other curling apps are wonderful for keeping statistics. Sometimes a coach can do it as well as watch the team, but it's really helpful if somebody with a knowledge of curling is able to keep the stats, and especially if they're able to keep the stats from one game to the next, because then you get consistency in the statistics. So that's another function. The emergency kit. Who keeps the emergency kit? Got the kids or the athletes' medical profiles, Band-Aids, Gravol, Motrin or Tylenol or Advil, whatever. Who's got that emergency kit? Knowing the rules. So the support team, as much as the team and the coach, needs to know the rules of curling as well as the rules of the competition competitors guide. So as coaches, you can make sure that you share that with everybody on the support team. And then the support team has the obligation to review the guide and know it just as well as the athletes and the coach. And there are functions within the competitor's guide that the support team can take on as well. Thank you and acknowledgements. This is something that the support team can assist with as well, doing up thank you cards and acknowledging sponsors. How is that going to happen? Is it going to be through social media? Is it going to be handwritten cards sent to all of the sponsors, to all of the supporters? Have fun. With the coach's input, can you find fun things for the kids to do between games or for the athletes to do between games? Is that something that the coach wants help with? One of the best things that I ever did when I was with Team Fleury, we went to an escape room in Prince Edward Island, and what a blast that was. We had such a good time. But, we were always looking for something to do away from the competition. That's what worked for Team Fleury. For another team, maybe that wouldn't work for them. But so working with the coach to find out what's going to work with the team. One comment here, an emergency action plan is absolutely necessary, and that's something that is a function that the support team can take on to figure out the venue that they're in, where are the emergency exits, where are the phones, where's the first aid kit, all of that, and then share that with the coach, because that would be another thing that the coach wouldn't have to worry about. Season planning. You can help with season planning. Ultimately, that's the coach's role, but you can help by identifying conflicts when you're going to be away on vacation with your athletes. So feeding into the season planning, and then also being aware of the anti-doping rules. WADA, WADA, and the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport have all of the banned substances, what's allowed, what isn't allowed. So ensuring that if your athlete requires medication, that there's a therapeutic exemption form completed if it's something that is on the banned list. And you can't trust doctors or pharmacists to know what's on the banned list. What you can do is find the banned list and then consult with a pharmacist to ensure that what your athlete is taking is allowed. During the competition, some of the roles and responsibilities that need to be clarified: social media, we've already talked about; nutrition, travel to and from the venue, how are you getting back and forth? At some of the junior competitions that I've been privileged to attend with teams, travel was via public transportation. Does that work for the team or doesn't it? In a couple of situations, it didn't work. So one of the parents would go out and rent a vehicle and become the driver for the team to and from the venue. Oh, nutrition's in there twice. It must be really important. Scouting other teams, we've already talked about; stats, the emergency kit, knowing the rules, and opportunities. So everything that's going on in the season is kind of under a magnifying glass at the competition. But what's important here is knowing what your role is before the competition. The communication plan is so important. What needs to be communicated and with whom? Create the plan. So if you're talking to your athletes about practices, how often they are. You need to have buy-in from the support team to ensure that the athlete is there for the arranged practices, games, etc. I worked with one coach that had a private Facebook account for the team. And the Facebook account was only accessible to the team and the coach, and it was a junior team. I don't think that's necessarily advisable. Supporters, parents especially, for children or athletes that are not adults yet, need to be aware of what's going on with their athlete. So once you've created the plan, then you need to implement it and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Recognize that texts and emails should only be used for specific communications. I worked with a team years ago, and the skip was a shoot from the lip type person. That's how she communicated. Her filter wasn't necessarily always in place. And her third was more of a thinker, and she liked to consider what she was going to say before she said it. She was very thoughtful in her communication. And there was a situation that arose, and the skip fired off an email to the third. It was at the end of the season, and she fired off this email, and it just blew the team apart. That was the end of that team. And unfortunately, they were a very effective team, but they couldn't get past that. So recognizing that texts and emails are all in black and white, and how you interpret a message may be very, very different from the way somebody else interprets a message. So keep texts and emails to when is practice, what time, I will be dropping my athlete off, very specific communication. Communication must be open, honest, and thoughtful in order to build unity. So that's another thing about texts and emails. Texts and emails. If you're going to send an email and it's something that could be misinterpreted, wait 24 hours before pressing send. Go back and read it again and think about how the recipient is going to interpret what you're trying to say. The best kind of communication, obviously, is open, face-to-face. Next is on the phone. But you want to be able to hear the tone, ideally to see the expression, etc. So keep it open, honest, and thoughtful. Include a debrief at the end of the season with the team and the support team. So you're not just debriefing with your team to find out what went well, what didn't go well. You want to know with the support team, how did they view their roles? Was it something that was working for them? And what could be improved for the following year? So curling builds skills that athletes can carry with them throughout their life: communication, commitment, dedication, connection, and resilience. Be a supporter rather than a distraction. That's the message for the support team. And the focus is on the team. Years ago, I changed careers, and I became the executive director for a women's emergency shelter in Red Lake. At that point, all I had was a university degree. I didn't have any experience in that work, but I remember starting work, and a very wise woman said to me, because we took in women and their children, she said to me that all it takes is one positive adult experience in a child's life to send that child down a path that is different from the one that they're currently on. And that interaction doesn't have to be a lifelong interaction. It doesn't have to be a year long. It can be a season. It can be a month or two. So a coach has the ability to develop a relationship with a child or with an athlete that will bring something positive to their life where they may not be able to see anything positive in their life at the time. So that's a message for coaches, but it's also a message for parents to recognize that the coach can have a positive influence. It's the old saying, an expert is always from away, right? So with my child, I'm not an expert, but another adult comes in and is seen as an expert and has something positive to contribute, and that will make a difference in the athlete's life. So that's all I have. I'm going to stop sharing for now. Are there any questions or comments? Any experiences? All right. I must have covered it. This module is, sorry, I'm getting feedback. Okay, so I'll try again. Okay, not getting feedback now. So we have, this module is actually in PDF form as well. I have the slides, I have the PDF document. I don't have permission to share it yet. I do have permission to share the slides. I will be definitely sending you the slides along with the recording in the next few days, but I'll let you know if what's going to happen with the PDF document, because it would be something that would be good to be shared with the support team that you are working with. So I will talk to my boss and see what I can do. Okay. All right. Well, if there's, oh, Kate, we have a comment. Wait. Oh, well, thank you so much, Connie and Keith. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I hope it will be useful for people going into the season. I know that you always go into a new team thinking it's the athletes that I have to really focus on, but inevitably the support team has to be a big consideration as well, because they have influence on the athletes you're working with. So anyway, well, I'll let you go. So thank you very much, all of you. Oh, thank you very much, Dawn.
This was great, Andrea. Thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome, Bertha. Thank you so much for tuning in. So have a good evening, everybody. Spring is here. Yay. Seagulls are back. Pelicans are next. So enjoy the evening.